This video is part of the Craft Your Trash playlist, and it's my first time on this playlist. I'll tell you a little bit more about it after the first project. Beachy Nautical Jar. It took me a while to get the sticky residue left from the label. Pot scrubber, hot water, and soap didn't do it. So plan B was some wet sanding, and a light sanding at that. And that worked. Okay, so to start things off, we're going to give the jar a blue tint, but we're not going to paint it with paint. We're going to mix up some colored Mod Podge. This is my own concoction of watered down glue with a couple drops of food color until I like the color. I think I did 2 drops of blue and 1 drop of green. Wasn't very much at all. Now I'm just going to put on the first coat. Try and make sure it's colored evenly, but it's pretty hard with a sticky substance like this. So I did do 2 coats, but I had to make sure it was like totally dry before starting the second. So I did come in with my heat gun, and then I actually walked away from it and let it dry under the ceiling fan for a while. I came back in, and this time I'm doing it upside down so I can get the bottom tinted as well. And now it doesn't look like such a hot mess. It sort of evens out the color. And come back in with the heat gun, and I was much happier with how it looked. I'm going to grab these lights fairy lights that I got from Amazon, and they take 3 AA batteries, but I really like that I can change out the batteries. And so the plan was for this to be a shell holder. So I put in a few shells and then pushed some more lights and put in a few shells, pushed some more lights in, and then the plan was just to hold to set the battery pack behind the jar, like to make a front and back. However, you'll see in the final reveal that I actually like it without the shells, with just the fairy lights. And I didn't know I would. But there's the jute twine that I use. It's actually the kind you get in the automotive division or automotive part of Dollar Tree. Now I'm going to put up some directions so my voiceover isn't all over the place. So 1, cut your first piece of jute 4 times the height of the jar. 2, use that to cut the rest of your jute pieces. I did 16. You could do 8 or 12 as long as it's an even number. 3, fold your jute pieces in half, then bring the loop or middle over the holding piece. Think over, under, pull the tails through. I like to use my macrame board, but you can just as easily keep it tied to your desk or use a piece of cork board. So there you see over, under, pull the tails through. You can slow this down or stop it if you want to look at it. I just wanted to show it to you a few times. There's the middle, there's a loop, over, under, pull the tails through. And then you can even them out on the holding rope. Number 5, once all your pieces are on the holding rope, attach it to the top of the jar with just a simple double knot. See how I just pulled it around, tied the double knot, and then just trim the ends. And then to get started, grab 2 double pieces, setting aside the single outside pieces on the left and right on each side, and then tie a single knot with those remaining middle 2 pieces. And that's your first knot. And then go left or right, it doesn't matter, and grab 1 single piece, and then go to your left and grab another single piece. So you'll keep working with the single pieces. You can go to the left or you can go to the right as long as you do the same for the whole row, and then just go row by row, tying knots with the single pieces, and you'll find it makes little diamond shapes, and you don't even have to try. As long as you just pull the single piece to the side and tie it with that next piece, it'll just automatically make your little diamond pieces. And then you'll just do this row by row by row until you are almost at the very bottom of the jar. And then you just kind of want to even it out and then trim the ends. I just set mine on a little Dollar Tree crate so I could get at them and so you could see. And then I'm just going to take a length of rope and I'm going to pull it through the little bottom of the diamonds. And again, you can do under, over, through, or over, under, through, or under, through. And just keep doing that until you've gone all the way around. And then just like at the top, when you meet up with the beginning, you're going to tie a double knot. And you want to try and like tug down the pieces so you have them as much on the bottom as possible. And mine actually could have come down a little bit more, but I was still happy with how he came out. So I tied a double knot, trimmed those pieces, and then this is a scary thing for me. I tried it off camera to make sure it didn't damage the Mod Podge finish there, the blue tint, and it didn't. So I went ahead and got rid of all the fuzzies. It made those diamond shapes much more defined. And I'll give you some different looks during the final reveal. Okay, jumping in with a little bit more information about this playlist. It happens on the third Friday of every month. This month's host is Kate from So Kate, and our co-host is Tammy from Happiness Created. Their channel links, as well as a link to the playlist, will be in my description box below. Project number 2 and 3. Okay, we're going to make some summer night light jars using these glass yogurt jars. The same tint as previous projects, some teal colored sand, solar light, and a tea light. Pretty sure all of this stuff was purchased at Dollar Tree. So I'm just going to add a little bit more of the regular glue mixture to the colored one because it was a little thick and dark looking. And then we're going to use the same process as we did with the previous project to tint these jars and make them look kind of beachy and nautical. And I'm kind of in love with this look. I just love how high-end it makes just a jar that you rescued out of the recycle box, you know? So that one, I had forgot to take the label off, but luckily I remembered what I did with the first one, and so I just sprayed some water on it and sanded it and sprayed some water and wiped it and was able to do it in just a few seconds while I was holding onto the jar. Once I got everything wiped down, I went ahead and continued spreading the tint over the jar. And I did the same as the nautical jar in the first project. I did do 2 coats, drying them while between coats. I'm sorry, y'all, my cat is playing. She likes to push the bowls. So this was the first coat. My heat gun is getting good use. And I did 2 coats. And now I'm going to make the tea light jar simply by pouring some sand in, about maybe 3/4 of the jar. I wanted the little tea light to sit up a little bit and be able to see the flame flicker kind of outside the jar, as well as making it easy to light it like so. It was a little boring, so I did grab this twine from the craft section at Dollar Tree and just wrapped it underneath the lip of the jar a few times and then tied a simple shoelace bow. And that one is done. So we're just going to push it to the side there and work on the third and final jar here. I didn't do any cans because I didn't have any cans. And I tend to like randomly save jars. So I'm using what I had. I had the larger sea glass, and then I remembered I had the smaller one in these packages that I hadn't even opened yet. So thankfully, I messed around with those and found a way that I liked, because the other sea glass was just way too big. I was only going to be able to fit like 2 or 3 of the little pieces. So this way I can go back and forth with the green and the blue. At first I thought I wanted a lot of blue, but it ended up looking too dark. So I decided mostly green with a few little scatters of blue for dimension. And here I'm just making the light shine into the jar so I can see, if it's visible with the amount of those little pebbles I have in there, and I do end up taking a few out. I think I want to say maybe the jar is halfway filled. I kind of wanted like a greenish glow, if you will, but I also wanted the light to, be significant, which is kind of hard with these solar lights, I'm finding. I thought blue was the color I wanted for the solar light, and it was easy enough to just paint it while holding it. I wanted to cover up the silver because it looked kind of cheap looking. It was silver, but it was plastic. It wasn't metal or anything. So I had been super careful about painting all around the solar part of it, and got paint all over my hands. So I end up drying it again. My heat gun getting a good workout. And I really thought I was almost done here. I got it dry enough that I could set it down. I think I set it down. Anyways, I got dry enough that I could work with it, and I glued the jar and placed the solar light part on top and looked at it, and I was just like, not working. So I grabbed some of my green chalk paint and I covered up the blue chalk paint. And as soon as I started, I knew that I was liking it like much, much better. It's just the blue with the green sea glass just wasn't doing it. So the silver was already covered with the blue, so I didn't have to be as dainty in painting this green coat. And they're much, 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 much better. I wanted to see how the two lights look together. So I got up from my seat and I had my hand on the light button for my tripod, and 1, 2, 3. There you have it. It's sort of ambient lighting, and I just like the mood that it sets. So it's very happy. As long as the solar light has a good charge, it's going to look really pretty. I was, however, thinking it looked a little bored, so like the tea light holder, I wrapped some of that craft section jute around where the solar light and the jar come together. And then I wrapped some jute around my hand, like making a tassel, but just tied it in the middle to make a bow. And then just hot glued the bow. And hot glued it like right on top of where the rope was. And finally, I was happy. All right, I did put a little shell in the middle as well too. And then just trimmed it so it didn't touch the table while it's sitting down. I just love the feel of these colors with the jute, and I will give you some more looks at all three of them in the final reveal.